Well, everyone, thank you very much for staying back. I know it's hard when it's the end of the day and you want to really rush off and enjoy the lie down. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to you all. I'd like to start and take this opportunity by a quick acknowledgement and appreciation and thank His Highness Sheikh محمد bin Zayed and His Highness Sheikh Saif bin Zayed, who actually, for me as an intellectual, has empowered and welcomed the people of the world to the United Arab Emirates. It is their leadership, sincerity, and passion for the UAE that the Vision 2030 stands out above the rest, with appreciation from around the globe, including British parliamentarians and businesses. It is great to be back at the Seymour's Middle East, here in the UAE. My talk is on the future of responsible finance, transforming ethical banking with AI. Before I begin, I'm going to be short as possible. I know it's a big topic. I wanted to kind of quickly share a little bit of perspective of myself, which I don't normally do, but I've been asked to do that. Been in the sector, in the research area for nearly 35 years. I've seen technology grow under my palms. I've seen and worked with Tim Berners-Lee and others who actually invented the internet. So I've seen a lot go on and a lot happen in this area that I'm really fascinated what's going to be next and how artificial intelligence is going to really work and really take shape of the world. And don't be fooled about it or by it. So quick introduction in terms of how responsible finance should be taken and how it is really important, especially in the banking and financial space, that we actually take a little bit time as banks, as financial institutions, to give this area more thought. Let's face it, we're all in it to make money. The customers, the bankers, the investors, we're all in it to make money. But wouldn't it be very good to make money responsibly? With over 18 banking crises since the Second World War, the aftermath was a proactive economic recovery. For example, national output declined for 2 or 3 years. Average crises were continuing until we reached the kind of peak of these crises. We were getting used to the crisis. Every 4 or 5 years, we were getting, this kind of crisis, that kind of crisis. Until it hit us in 2008, the total eclipse of global financial crisis. And I think when you talk about global finance and you'll talk about financial disasters, those who were in the midst of 2008 financial crisis really know what happened. A lot of banks got bust. In the United Kingdom, many small players went out of business. Bigger banks chewed into smaller banks, and then we had a lot of problems, in the banking sector. And a lot of people decided, no, I might as well just keep my money under my pillows, which is pretty safe, and I can access it more. But you know what happens when you really have a problem? It's not economic, it's not within your capacity of mindset, and you're hit with a huge burden of a systemic dynamic in terms as well. A pandemic that will wipe out the whole historical problem in finance. And I'm talking about COVID-19. Today, the impact of global finance and the problem we're facing is not man-made. It's made by an economic problem that has been faced by the global world of something as huge as the pandemic, as COVID-19 has left us. And I was quite I was quite impressed what the economists had to say, how much the pandemic has actually cost the world. I don't know how good this figure is, but the economists have put the pandemic amount to about $10 trillion foregone GDP in 2020 and 2021. Are we ever going to revive and recover that? It's a difficult thing. So we keep seeing history repeating itself. And one of the key things that we see is how money changes. We've heard a lot about cryptocurrency and how the world's going to change into cryptocurrency. This was the same argument when fiat currency came into being, when people said, no, we will actually have paper currencies because it's very hard to carry gold. But there was an ethical angle that we emphasize, and this ethical angle is very important. And this ethical angle is about you print how much you have. You do not print what you like. And today the world has changed. Governments have become very, actually, they've left their own ethics and their loyalty to what they started with. And so the biggest problem we're going to be facing in the very near future is not a pandemic of the crisis we had of COVID-19, is the pandemic of financial problem where we print so much money, we don't have any value for that money anymore. And I think that's going to be the biggest difficulty for digital currency as well as fiat currency. So when I was talking about this a couple of months ago at a lecture, I was told, what do? We are growing exponentially. We are 7 billion plus human beings in the world. What do we do? We've got to get back to basics. We've got to have the real ethics to support the money we print. We've got to find that the regulators and the government work together to making sure that what we say on a dollar, we mean and we have that amount to support it. Not an IOU in the treasury, and we don't know when we're going to open that treasury to say when that's going to be repaid. So artificial intelligence is quite interesting. I think I skipped a couple of slides. And I want you to ask ChatGPT, because that's what everyone does. When you have a lecture, you kind of say what's available, and obviously artificial intelligence, in a way, it helps a lot of lecturers and things like that to kind of see what's the kind of front-end tool doing. So I asked ChatGPT about what is a good currency. And the first thing it told me, US dollar. And that was quite obvious for me. But when I asked something more kind of in line into a validated approach where it looks at a few other things, so more parameters into searching how the information is gathered. So this is Wizard, which is one of our own technology that we've developed on top of OpenAI. And it came back that a currency should have low inflation, political stability, economic fundamental, and central bank credibility. Now, if we take some of these points, is there anything like that, what we're doing in our national strategy? No. So there's a big failure coming. I know Bill Gates talked about more pandemics. I think there won't be any greater pandemics than the dollar or the pound or the dinar, because if that fails, we're going to be in real serious trouble. I hope it doesn't. So this is Wizard. They asked me if I can show that, so that's what it is. It's just, it is quite, it is in an embryonic stage, but it costs us barely, very minimum. I know everyone spent millions and millions of pounds. It costs us a couple of £100,000 to actually put this together, but it does need a lot of power behind it. So, knowledge in action. Let's face it, knowledge is only good if it works. Okay? And we do that. We do that training development every time, everywhere we go. And I think it's very key to take that into consideration when we're looking at responsible finance. That as bankers, as educators, as regulators, that responsible finance does mean what the labels say. and we are responsible for what we do. So why does responsible finance matter? It matters because you have 1.5 billion adults who don't use financial services. Now, that's a key area for a lot of financial institutions here. Yeah? A lot of customers that actually can use your services. Legacy buildings. One of the important things that actually hits me is what are we going to leave the next generation? And if we take a couple of seconds to ponder, what are we going to leave? I don't think we have much legacy except what we have gained and what we have spent. We may leave them a destroyed world where ethics is no longer valued, where our responsibility has gone out the window. And I think all these things matter very much, because if we want to stay in business, then we've got to put this in practice. So I think these are very important and key areas. And I think it's important to take into consideration customer impacts. I mean, I've looked at some of the complaints, legacy banks, the complaints in the legacy bank are huge, enormous. But people still bank. They need the bank. They'll still continue to bank. There's not a problem with that. So we got the fintechs guys coming in. I know Monzo and Revolut were actually on the stage. And they're doing a fantastic job. But they're also increasing in complaints. And I think what we need to see as an industry is how we manage and what's the percentage level of complaints that we can say we'll have to accept that, because there's a borderline we'll all have to work towards. We can't say there'll be zero complaints. There will be complaints. So I think that's quite key. But there's another growing inequality. This is reported by the United Nations. 75% of the poor people around the world are unbanked. And this is something I think is really an advantage for bankers, especially the fintechs, because you guys can go to these poor countries, poor people. Most of them have actually mobile. I was in a very rural area once, and I couldn't find a bank, I couldn't find a shop, but I did find someone with a mobile phone, which is really good. So I think that there's another work to be done, a lot to be achieved for us to do that. Responsible banking principles. I've taken all this from different available sources, especially the UN, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, is really interesting. And I think obviously the UN has a practical role to play in the global financial markets, and I think they can do more. I mean, the papers are good, but they're not constructive enough for me. I feel that there should be more work done. It's a report, it's a paper, it's nice, but I think I would like to see, one of the reasons I'm criticizing it is that they can do better. Community support, microfinancing. I mean, this is really important. One of my heroes is Muhammad Yunus, who is now acting leader of the Bangladesh government. And he's done a lot of work. And I think as financial services and responsible finance, it's very important we remember that the very fabric for the world businesses is not the top 1,000. It's the 99% people who are SMEs, small, medium enterprises. And they are really the backbone of any nation in the world. In the UK, and I'll share with you, it's impressive. Now, I know a lot of people say, UK, we're still at the 6th largest economy in the world. $4 trillion GDP. Okay, so please, if you want to invest anywhere, I know I'm in the UAE, do come and invest in the United Kingdom. We've got a lot of opportunities. But I wanted to share with you something. 3.7 trillion income. Through who? Through SMEs. Very big area for financial services, something that I would like to work with the small bank that we're developing, and I'll share that with you later. But I think these are very important and interesting data. These are things that we kind of overlook sometimes, but it's a very impressive area. This is a kind of fintech growth. I've obviously taken that from the industry. But I think, I used Monzo and Revolut because I really like what they've done. I see their success is very much success. We at App Bank, which I will share with you, is a small startup challenger bank which is happening in the UK. And we're going to be doing something similar to that area of non-zone Revolut, but we're going to do it ethically. We're going to be responsible. And we hope we're going to share that friendship and we're going to understanding with those fintech companies. One of the ethical banking areas which has really fascinated me and has been really in my mind for the last 10 years is Islamic banking. It's actually core fundamental area of ethical banking. It's actually totally ethical. And it's grown exponentially. 3.2 trillion being traded at the moment, and it's expected to grow to about 4.6 or 5 trillion by 2020. It's one of the fastest areas of financial growth in the whole world. And it's got nothing to do with faith. Yeah? It's really to do with ethics. And every culture, every scripture, every believer, we have ethics. You lose ethics, we lose ourselves. And this is the most valuable thing a human being or humankind can have, the value of ethics and value attached to it. So I think it's a very good area. I know a lot of the mainstream banks in the UK, like HSBC and others, have actually worked in this area. There's a lot of good practices. So we're hoping that we'll learn something from that and work our way towards that. So just quickly about App Bank. Very small enterprise, developed myself, and Lord Sheikh, a late Lord Sheikh, good friend of mine, who inspired me to come towards this area. I'm still learning. It's something that I'm working on. It'll be a customer-first banking approach. I know we say that, but we really want to mean it. That's one of the key points that we want to do. And it's totally on a risk-sharing basis. And I'm going to say this very clearly. Banks are not there just to make you money. They're there to make their investors money. But they can do the ethical value-added thing to really work with you to make you the money as well. And they can do that. So I think that customer-first element that most banks are hoping and trying to do is something they can come together to do. AI can do great things, and especially in the ethical space. AI has the magnificent tools to actually do fast and effective contracting, fast and effective regulatory, and also fast and effective ethical conformities. And I think these are the areas that we are working on at the moment. My team in London are working on how we can make AI work fast and effectively in this digital space for ethical banking. And we hope to share that with leading banks in the UAE and the Arab world so that we can work together in that space. The leadership team, including myself, Right Honourable Lord Errol, who came here last year where we launched Wisdom. We hope we will talk to you about Wisdom more in the very near future. It will be one of the largest funds in the world. It'll beat Horizon. Horizon is about 1 billion. We're looking at about 100 billion. And we mean what we say. It's a big thing, and everyone can access that fund. So these are kind of things that we're working on. It's quite fascinating and quite interesting, and we look forward to working with you all. This is App Bank. We're just inviting people to share ideas and things. Obviously, we're not a bank yet, so we don't do any banking products. But the idea is to kind of get you guys come to us and talk about us and how we can do it. We are an ethical bank, so we're totally very different than the other banks, but we want to make sure that we are able to play our role as an ethical bank. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me. If you have any questions, I'll take it, but I know if you're rushed to go ahead, thank you very much for listening. Thank you.